Yeah, we'll just kibosh that. Didn't set up the right intro. Sorry about that, guys. Uh,
Musica.
welcome to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today we have Rob Palmer with us, who I met doing an RFR chat a little while ago, and he's involved with RFR, as you can probably tell. He's wearing the T-shirt, and also has done some stuff with like Skeptic Inquirer, CFI, which is the Center for Inquiry, stuff like that. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We didn't meet, as you said, that long ago. It was a couple of months ago, I believe. And then you were looking for people, so I figured I'd volunteer. We'll see how this goes. I'm usually the person interviewing people. I normally
Oh, ha ha!
Right,
the shoe's
right.
on the
So-
other foot now.
That's right.
I hate
Well,
being interviewed now.
what we do here is we chat with folks about how they found their way free from their previous belief systems. So why don't you take us on that journey, and we may interrupt here and there with a couple of questions, whatnot, or clarifications, maybe. You never know.
Well, so like a lot of people that I meet, I'm a recovered Catholic. Yeah, and I went through Catholic school for 12 years. In fact, early on, I don't know if it was first or second grade, but something like that, I wanted to be a priest. I found a little letter I wrote to my mom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, so when you're going to Catholic school and you're surrounded by nuns and priests and sometimes there's lay people too, but there's a lot of the religious folks, you look up to them and you go, ooh, this would be a good thing to do with my life. What do you know at that age?
Right.
So, yeah, most people I know who were raised, at least when I was coming up, Catholic. Now this is a whole thing about evangelical Catholics or fundamentalist Catholics. But back then that wasn't a thing. So basically, like, evolution was fine. Whatever science said was fine. The Bible is not a science book.
Right.
I didn't go through those kinds of struggles that I get from people leaving the evangelical faith, where it's like, I don't understand. How could the earth be billions of years old? And how could the dinosaurs be real? So I didn't go, I always loved dinosaurs. I believed in them. I had a telescope. I read all of the Time Life books on science. I had no problem with that at all. But there was part of my brain, which was, okay, but there is God and Jesus on the cross because he's above my bed and I see him every week at church. And how could that be wrong? Because everyone I know believes in it.
What was some of your favorite things you saw in the telescope as a little guy?
Oh, so the planets, when you were able to see Saturn or Jupiter.
That's cool.
That was just freaking fascinating. Yeah. As I got older, friends of mine had much better telescopes, and we actually were able to look at things like when Halley's Comet came and Comet Hale-Bopp, and that was really, really cool. But yeah, the thing that amazes me is the huge amount of Christians who just do not believe in what human race has discovered about the universe because the Holy Book says otherwise. It's just astounding to me.
Yeah, and it's
mean,
because someone else told them that it doesn't comport with they haven't even tried to mesh the science with what they believe. They just say, "Don't even tell me what the science is because someone told me it's not gonna line up." They haven't even tried.
Well, one of the calls I had I'm a helpline agent for Recovering from Religion, amongst other things that I do for them, by the way. So one of the calls I had was somebody who introduced himself as a specific Lutheran sect, which I don't remember the name of it, but they're a fundamentalist Lutheran sect. And he said, I'm calling because I'm in college now and I'm learning all the science stuff and I know it's wrong. It sounds right, but I know it's wrong. And I said, why are you saying that? And then he read me their like a specific thing that they have to believe to be in this sect. And it was basically something like humans cannot understand reality only through their own brains, only through the Holy Spirit can you understand reality. And since the Holy Spirit agrees with the Bible is right. And therefore, the earth is 6,000 years old and there's no evolution and all that. Even though he was seeing the evidence that pointed in the other direction, he couldn't reconcile that. So that was one of the reasons he was calling to discuss that whole matter. Anyway, so 12 years of Catholic school. I don't think I was a firm believer in a lot of the doctrine. Like, I don't think I ever believed in transubstantiation. Do you guys know what that is?
Yes, of course.
Okay, for the people listening who don't, it's a specific Catholic doctrine. Most Christians don't do this. Maybe Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, I'm not sure about them, but specifically Catholics, unlike most Christians who believe it's a metaphor, eat my body and drink my blood. Yeah. Catholics believe there's a miracle, and in some essential way, the bread changes to Jesus's body and the wine changes to his blood. And that is part of being Catholic. You're supposed to believe that. I never believed that. I don't know if I knew I was going against the doctrine or just thought, no one believes this. That's stupid. And frankly, I have had this discussion with Catholics I know 60, 70 years old, and they will tell me, nobody believes that.
So they're not true Catholics? Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly. So as part of my skeptic thing, I did a weekly series, 52 of them I did, logical fallacies. And one of them I did was No True Scotsman. And in each of these, I had the name of the fallacy, then the definition, and then an example. And in the one I did for that one, I had two Catholics talking to each other about transubstantiation. And at the end, it goes, "You're no true Catholic." And when I posted that, I got like the most vitriol I've ever gotten on any of my logical fallacies. And half of them were, "No Catholic believes that. That's stupid." And other ones were, "You can't say that. That is part of Catholicism. If you don't believe that, you're not a Catholic." It was astounding.
That's quite telling, really. I mean, when I grew up under the Jewish faith or whatever. So we didn't talk about any of that stuff because the Jews didn't really believe that Jesus was a Messiah, right? So
yeah. I mean, if you do, then you're not technically. You could be I think it's called Messianic Jew.
Yeah, Jews for Jesus, they call it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But, so political.
So somewhere in the middle of my education in from first to 8th grade, maybe a little after that, but I started to doubt the central tenets even of the religion, that there was a Trinity that didn't seem to make sense, that maybe there even wasn't God. Certainly hell didn't make sense to me, that all my friends who were not Catholic, that I met later were out of Catholic school, that lived on my block, the Jews next door, that they were going to burn in hell. That just didn't sit with me. And
should it?
Yeah. But I think I still believed that there was a God, right? And because it has to be, you hear those calls on the line in the Atheist Experience all the time. Look at the trees. Like, how could this have come about? Even if I believed in evolution, fundamentally, where did it start, right? So I'm pretty sure I believe that. The thing that changed my mind drastically forever was, so I'm Italian American. I have a big Italian American family, and therefore they're all Catholic, right? A holy roller came to town, Long Island, where all my relatives lived. I had 18 first cousins, and converted all of them to evangelical Pentecostal Christianity in a few months.
Dang.
Wow. How the hell did they pull that off?
One went, was convinced, brought their spouse, brought their brother, brought their sister, brought their kids, and they all freaking converted. Only my immediate family did not. And for the first time, I saw close up something that made absolutely no sense to me, which is Catholics have the Bible, you have the Bible. How come you believe you can lay on hands and heal the sick and, yes, raise the dead under circumstances? He told me that happened in his church because somebody dropped dead in the church and the pastor raised them from the dead. That's funny. I've been going to church every week for my life, and nobody's dropped dead in the Catholic Church. Maybe it's because priests don't say they can raise them from the dead. But
they should be. Why are they wasting their time at a church? They should be at an emergency room,
right?
Like, just stand there and do the thing.
So I,
go to the coroner's office
just to see what this was. I actually went to one of the services with my cousin, the one I was closest to. Thought he had gone crazy, and going to the service just reinforced that. Somebody stood up, yammering in tongues. All of them had their hands in the air, and I just couldn't believe this was going on. This is before the internet, right? You couldn't go look up a video on people doing this. So I had never seen this before. And I asked Richard, "What's going on? What is she saying?" And, she's getting a message from God. I said, "Well, then how come it's gibberish? What good is God talking to somebody when you can't understand what they're saying?" He said, "The minister can understand. He'll translate." So, can either of you guess what the minister's message was? Well, what he was translating that God was supposedly saying to the congregation?
Probably needed some more money in that.
Yes,
plate.
thank you.
Just
Mike.
saying.
You're not tithing enough in
The
church.
Lord is telling me that there's some jingling in those pockets in the third row,
Exactly.
back left corner.
I just did a face palm. I could not believe how gullible these people
row
were.
H, seat 7.
But the real scary thing was, for the first time, I realized how dangerous this was, because I think if that minister had translated it differently and said, I don't know, there's a mosque going up a block from here and Jesus wants you to burn it down, a lot of them would have wanted to do it because God was telling them it through the minister.
Yeah. I've seen, like you were mentioning earlier, about some of the talk shows, like the Line and Atheist Experience, and one of the ones that I actually co-host or host is the Let's Talk one, where callers have called in and they're asked, if God told you to kill your neighbor or your son or something like that, if he told you, would you do it? Right? And a lot of times they try to skirt around the question.
Yeah, God wouldn't ask me to do that. Right.
Well, right, but I mean, let's just say he did. Would you do it?
He told Buddy to take his kid up on a mountaintop with an axe.
Right.
What are you
Like,
talking?
seriously.
It's documented that he does that. It
But-
might happen tomorrow.
The disturbing thing is usually when you finally get an answer out of them, they'll say yes.
Ugh.
Andrea Yates, I believe, is the name of the woman who drowned her children in the back of a car, pushed a car into a lake because they were before the age of whatever they call it, consent.
Innocence.
So she was saving them, so they couldn't go bad and go to hell. So she did a good thing in her mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
but in our society, she went to either prison or a mental hospital. I don't know which, but yeah. But the person who did that in the Bible is looked up to as a hero, and they in fact call it the Abrahamic religions, because he listened to spooky voices and was going to sacrifice his son to the spooky voices.
Right. Up until the very last minute when it goes,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. What?
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't the author of Confusion. What's going on here?
Well, the other thing that always got me about that story, I tell you, as a Catholic, I don't think I believed anything in the Old Testament. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, God is supposed to know everything. Like, how are you testing somebody if you know everything? What is that? What are you talking
There's
about?
a good point. That's a good point. Why test people if you already know?
You literally know the answer already. So what is the point of this?
But I have talked to evangelical friends, and it's what comes out of their mouth on this subject is very confusing. It was like, well, life is a film, just like if you're going to a movie. But the people in the movie have free will to do what they want. You go, what? Like, those don't seem to go together. But somehow in their heads, they try to reconcile those two disparate things. I've heard people say, well, what if I recorded a football game, right? And then I'm omniscient, so I know how it's going to end. But now I watch the football game and I get really mad at the people for what they're doing. It's like, what?
Like you rewatch. I don't even think they do this anymore. Like they used to have like a tape of like the playoffs for like basketball or something like that, so you could watch like the '97 Bulls win. So you've watched this tape 50 times, but then like every time you just like, why doesn't he just pass it? Pass it. It's like he's not gonna pass it. Why are you upset? He doesn't pass right there.
The only way to reconcile that is the way Mr. Deity does it. For people who don't know, you got to go look at his channel. Brian Keith Dalton, he plays Mr.
Brian's
Deity.
awesome.
He turns off his all-knowingness because otherwise he'll go crazy.
Yeah.
I would suggest.
He was a guest on RFRX Talks, and he appeared as himself, as Mr. Deity, and we got to ask him questions about that and everything else about what's wrong with this planet. And he told us about shutting off his all-knowingness because he doesn't want to watch all the killing and all the masturbation. That's just, he doesn't want to watch it.
Just so much. Just so much.
Masturbation. Whew, thankfully he turns that off. So yeah, anyway.
Just no time for anything else. It's all I can see. It's everywhere.
Yeah, he was disgusted.
How could God have a plan and us have free will? That's kind of one of the things I always ask them. Like, how can
and people pray for him to change his plan to benefit yourself. Like, what?
Yeah, the whole being omnipresent, potent, all the omnis, prayer is kind of useless.
Exactly. Hi, Ryan.
Like, what is the point?
So the thing that then once I learned about this other form of Christianity, evangelical Christianity, right, and they're telling me all these powers they have and they can do all these things, and then of course there's going to be a rapture. I never heard about that as a Catholic. Like, what are you freaking talking about? That is the freaking worst thing. So many people who call us who are deconstructing, coming out of religion, were raised that way. Jehovah's Witnesses believe the trumpet's going to sound in their lifetime, and everyone's going to be turned to dust who's not a believer. People who are in evangelical faiths fear that they did one wrong thing and didn't, ask for forgiveness in time, and they're going to be left behind while their family goes off to the rapture.
It's to be happy without them. Like, how is it heaven if, like, you know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, I don't get to go, and y'all can still just be in eternal happiness without me? That's messed up.
Okay.
What's that about?
Mikey, in that regard, I had a friend, I won't name him. All right, so 4 of us used to go out to dinner after work. We all worked at the same place, and we'd go see action adventure movies, which none of our wives liked. So this was a thing when we'd go out to dinner. So we went to see, I think it was Constantine.
Love that movie.
Had something to do with demons and the devil, if I vaguely recall.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So as we're sitting at dinner, all right. So one friend was an evangelical Christian, homeschools his kids, know if flood is real. Mm-hmm. The other 2, one works in the Catholic Church. I never talked religion with him. I don't know how religious he was, but he helps out in the church. So I got to believe it somewhat. The other one sort of just doesn't care. Right. So the religious one turns to me and dinner and goes, Rob, I know this. I got to tell you this. I've been thinking this the whole night. I know the movie is fake, but what it's talking about, the demons and hell, are real, and you got to come to Jesus. I don't want to see you go to hell. And now my other 2 friends start laughing, because that's what guys do, right? Rob's being picked on. He's going to hell. So my friend, the religious one, turns to them and goes, don't laugh. You're going to hell too. Again, no, Catholic, but they're going to hell. And then I turned to him, and this is why I thought about mentioning this. I knew his father had just died. And he had talked about it in the past, that he tried his whole life. So he converted at a young age. Some story about his car going off the road into a pond or a river, and somebody pulled him out, and that guy was religious and took him to his church. So he converted from some, banal Christianity to fundamentalist evangelical, proselytizing all the time, young earth creationists, whatever. But he could not get his parents to convert. And I don't know if they were Lutheran or Catholic, but they weren't evangelical, and therefore if he didn't do that before they died, they were going to hell. So now his father had died, and he said, Rob, I cry myself to sleep every night because I know my father's burning in hell.
Oh, fuck. That's
poor guy.
Yeah. So he had to sit there thinking that his folks were going to hell then.
Yep.
Did he talk about that? Did he mention how that felt for him or anything like that?
Yeah, well, he said it very sadly, but there's nothing he could do. So then I did ask him, all right, and you worship the being who's going to do this. How are you going to feel living forever worshiping this being, knowing every day that's happening for eternity? And he said, I won't know that. What?
Why wouldn't you?
Because there's a part of there's a section in the Bible which says something about all of your tears will be taken away in heaven. In fact, and at the last scene of Titanic, when the ship is going down, there's a priest reading from that verse. I remember about unhappiness will be washed away in the afterlife. So basically, they take that to mean they are going to be made to forget anything that would make them feel sad. So therefore,
that's convenient.
Know his father is burning in hell. I said, well, then I didn't. That was the end of the conversation. We went on to something else, I recall. But in my head, well, now you're a zombie. Like, you've been lobotomized, and you're going to live forever like that. And you're okay thinking in the future that's okay with you. That astounds me too.
At that point, it's a different. Like, if you get a memory wipe, like the Men in Black neuralizer on the way into the gates, you're not going to heaven. Someone else is going, but it's not you. It would be a completely different person.
An alternate version of you. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, without free will, by the way, because as I've heard people call into the shows when that comes up, no, there's no free will in heaven. Like, what?
Come on, guys. We're going to sing Silent Night for 150 years straight. You guys ready? A 1 and a 2.
there's a I want to say it's Dark Matter 2525, but I'm not positive of that. Who's got a cartoon where during the episode it switches back and forth between two friends in heaven praising. That's all they're doing, and two friends in hell moving burning rocks along, and they're both saying, "I can't do this for eternity."
That is Dark Matter 2525. Because I've seen that one too. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, he does a really good animations about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. So moving on with my story, I have now lived since my teenage years with being the black sheep of the family, as well as my two siblings and parents who are now gone. But it was like, they kept trying to get us to convert and well, for quite a long time, which is, as you guys probably know, very annoying, right? But then they gave up and stopped. So then I have to wonder, like if I was on a roof and going to jump off, it's 20 stories tall, and they keep pulling me back. No, Rob, you can't do that. You're going to die. And then finally they're just going, oh, go ahead.
Just jump.
So you don't care anymore? It's like once I'm happy I'm not being bugged, but on the other hand, it's like kind of, well, I guess you don't care anymore. I'm going to burn forever.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's only so much they thought they could do, and if you weren't biting, then
probably in their head is, I will now pray for him, and it's up to God.
Yeah.
Right.
If my 2-year-old was about to walk off a cliff, there isn't a number of times where I would let her go over.
Right?
There isn't a number of times where I was like, all right, I'm sick of saving your life. I guess I'll just pray that you see the error of your ways. If they actually believe what they thought they believed, they would be freaking out on a daily basis.
So that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point, Mikey. Like, do they not believe it 100%? You think there's some doubt enough for them to, I don't know.
They still put on seatbelts. When not wearing a seatbelt, eating rotten food, that's a shortcut to paradise. But somehow they always cook their food to the correct temperature. They wear their seatbelt. They look both ways when they cross the street.
Wear their PPE when they're at work.
You know what I mean? They don't stand up on top of the roof with a fishing pole in a lightning storm. They don't tempt it.
Well, for that matter, most of them don't take their own lives because, like, I don't know if that was real and you 100% real, and I'm going to go to heaven and be in eternity with the being I worship. Why not do that?
I thought
suicide was a sin.
Well, I have heard, and I'm not a biblical scholar to verify this, but I have heard people say that the Catholic Church introduced that at some point because people were in fact taking their lives.
Oh, I'm sure they introduced a lot at some point.
Yeah, and the last thing you want is to reduce the number of people to be able to put money in your pot. So
he's like, whoa, don't okay that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta get this stained glass paid for. We just put it in.
So I gotta ask you this, Rob. Did when you kind of were clear of your religious belief, did you fall into any other kind of maybe pseudoscience-y type stuff? Like,
no, so I was actually all in on some of that at the same time that I was a believer. Okay. I mean, at the time I grew up in the 60s, late 60s, 70, early 70s, it was hard not to be, right? Again, no internet. You couldn't even check something. Everything that was on television, In Search Of, or the one with Leonard Nimoy, it was like, Bigfoot's real, Loch Ness Monster's real, aliens are abducting people. I was big into aliens are abducting people, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I lived in a 2-story house, and initially my bedroom was with my brothers on the second floor. And when I started hearing these abduction stories, one of the reasons I moved to the basement was so that they couldn't beat me through the windows. I mean, it was like, I want to get away from my younger brother. But still, I knew it was safer down there. They can't beat me through the window because it would have been through solid rock. So, yeah, I was way into all of that. So, interestingly, I probably came out of both of them at about the same time, a long time ago, hard to remember exactly. But in school, I found a copy of the Skeptical Inquirer magazine. Mm-hmm. Which one of the copies had something to do with aliens, and though it's probably these stories aren't real and UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or unidentified, they're probably not alien spacecraft, and whatever other stories. It's like, wow. And I was hooked. And, that eventually got, I went and got every copy. I got a subscription. That's what got me out of all of that nonsense very early. So yeah, I'm really thankful I found that. And really weird, full circle, I started writing for that same magazine in 2018. So that is
Nice.
What are some of the things you wrote about in there?
I have written about the harm in believing in psychics. That's a big issue for me. I'll tell you more about that later if you want to hear. Also, aliens, UFO abductions. I actually also am a public speaker. I've talked at SciCon several times on different topics. I give a talk, which I'm going to give. We have a skeptics cruise through the Bermuda Triangle coming up this July.
Oh, cool.
Hosted by Skeptoid, the podcast, and Brian Dunning. Yep. And I'm giving a talk about, something like, are aliens responsible for the Bermuda Triangle? Spoiler, no.
Absolutely. Undeniably.
Didn't they just recently find out what the issue was there? Like there was some sort of really harsh undercurrent that was pulling things and moving them away.
Well, I haven't made this talk yet. I'm going to have to look deeply into that kind of specific. But basically, it's going to start something like, so Ray Hyman, who is one of the early skeptics and created the skeptic movement with a bunch of other people, there's something called the Hyman maxim, or sometimes the Hyman categorical imperative, which means before you try to explain something, you need evidence that there's something to explain. And in fact, the Bermuda Triangle, there's nothing necessary to explain there, is the truth. It's not any more disappearances than any other widely traveled body of water or whatever. And it's just bullshit, frankly. But yeah.
But it sure sounds cool.
Right. Somebody wrote a book, and this is how a lot of these things happen. Then it became famous. Then they did, the TV shows about it. Similar thing with Von Daniken, right?
Good.
Today, Ancient Astronauts, because he took up that whole mantle. It's just popular culture likes things which are out there. Nobody likes to invite skeptics to a party and say no. Ooh, let's hear these fancy stories of people being yanked out of their 24th story apartment in New York City. This is a current Netflix documentary, the Manhattan UFO abduction
documentary,
which happened in 1988, I think. Witnesses all over the city, supposedly, yada yada. I wrote about this. The other thing I wrote about is the drones from December. Drone. It was called the Christmas drone invasion. Well, by the way, it's 5 months now. Why is no one talking about that anymore? Did they just all go away?
Because they took over. The invasion is over. They did it.
So that started a flurry of conversation about disclosure is imminent. And I'm going to do another name drop. Coleman Watts has a wonderful YouTube channel, and he invited me on as a guest to talk about the alien disclosure, which was being talked about all over YouTube and TikTok, that any day now, then any week, then any month, definitely early 2025, the government.
That's Stephen Greer stuff, right?
What's that?
Isn't that Stephen Greer who's in charge of that?
Don't know that name. Don't know that one. There's so many people involved in that movement.
Richard Dolan, I think, is another one.
So many people. But so they're the people channeling aliens, and it is. Some people claim they're aliens. They're starseed people. They all got messages. The aliens are about to show themselves. This was like 2 or 3 months ago. I
want to be part of the. Can I sign up to be one of those people? I would like to enlist in Starseed, the program.
Well,
I could not find the website.
Mikey, go on TikTok. There's a freaking million channelers.
Yeah, there is.
They're special. They get channeled. They channel the aliens. So I'm sure you can talk to them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of woo on fucking TikTok, buddy. A lot of it.
Earth 6,000 years old.
My feed every once in a while. I'm like, what the hell is it? Not interested.
And the pyramids were that was last month. Like the city they found.
The big underground shit.
Yeah.
I mean, do I want to think the Earth is 6,000 years old, or do I want to think I might have superpowers in 1,000 years? I'll take the second one. That's fun. That's silly.
You might consider Scientology, Mikey, because
no, I can't afford it. Can't afford it, and I'm so bored. I don't have any secrets.
The problem with Scientology, yes, you will get 2 and 3 mortgages on whatever property you own.
And
give to them.
And then they'll want to pump me for like secrets. I don't have any secrets. I've been streaming most of my adult life, so most of my trash is out there already.
That religion is insidious. They get people off the street with take a free personality test. Well, find out how you can fix your life. And then, okay, you got these problems, we'll only charge you $25. And the next time you go in, then we're charging $250 for each course. And like you said, yes, they find out your secrets. You hold the e-meter and you get audited, quote unquote. And they ask you all these personal questions, which you have to answer. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to do it. And they write all this down and keep it in their records.
They write it down and keep it in their records?
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Pull it out on you?
Yeah, exactly. You threaten to talk about them to badmouth them when you leave.
All
yeah,
your
they got this
secrets.
on you. Every bad thought you've ever had, every bad thing you've ever done or contemplated doing. Oh, yeah.
They record all of it.
Yeah. They have an organization. I forget the name of it, but it is created and exists just to go after people who badmouth them, who've left their faith. Yeah. And the person who used to run it left the faith, and he now co-hosts the podcast with Leah Remini, who also left the faith, and gives the inside scoop on them. It is such a hard. I watched their documentary series about
Going Clear.
Scientology, the aftermath, and I learned so much about them, which is just so disturbing, including how the U.S. government was basically blackmailed into giving them tax exempt status. It's astounding.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
So they had all the church members suing the IRS because the IRS would not allow them to deduct the auditing when you're holding the e-meter and you're being recorded. They were trying to deduct those as religious exemptions or something, and the IRS no, and so therefore all of them were suing. And now it takes the government a lot of lawyers to fight all these lawsuits in different places, right? So the head of the organization, David Miscavige, I believe at the time, goes to the head IRS office and goes, everyone will magically drop all their lawsuits if you just give us tax exempt status. And that's what happened.
Fuck.
Just jam up the cords. Brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess what you got to do.
Plus, at the time, because they were not paying the taxes they were supposed to, they owed billions of dollars. And if the government hadn't reversed on that, this is my recollection of that episode, they would have gone bankrupt. And because the government caved, now they're so freaking rich, it's not funny.
Yeah. Now they're tax exempt, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So they got their, what is this, CO13 or something like that?
501c3.
501c3, that's it. CO1.
But the Mormons,
because I'm from Canada, right?
Yeah, it's the C501c3.
That's right.
the Mormons have more money than them because they're more successful at raising money and getting people to tithe and all that. Even though
robbing people?
they just have so many people, it's just amazing. Yeah. You ever see the science fiction series The Expanse?
Yeah.
I have watched that.
Yeah, do you remember that they had that interstellar ship that the Mormons had built with the Angel Moroni on the lead of it?
That's funny.
They built it with Mormon money to go and populate another solar system.
I don't know who's behind it, but whoever's behind the Girl Scouts, that religious organization, they must be trillionaires. Because I'm talking about they don't ever have an extra cookie in the house. And those cookies have gone from $4 a box to about $55 a box.
And they think
they
still
can't keep them on the shelves.
Less of them in the box.
Yeah. And they just they're just pure cash at this point. Just hand the kid $20. That's what you should do.
And I will buy them every time they show up.
I can't resist. It's not my fault. It's a weakness, and they're preying on me.
Thin mints. That's
Thin mints only. Keep the rest of those boxes.
I don't like the thin mints.
So just a little bit more about my family. This would be interesting if I could send them this YouTube video and they'll hear me talking about them in retrospect.
Hi guys.
It would be amazing. So one of my uncles died, and we're at the wake before the funeral, and everyone there is in this religion, fundamentalist, evangelical, Pentecostal. So except for myself and my wife and one other cousin who's like a, third generation who decided not to be in that faith, and she's also a black sheep. So we're sitting there talking and whatever. And what I found out was before I and my wife got there, my cousin showed up. My cousin was in prison and had just been released for raping all of his children. And he was one of them. He went to Valley Forge Christian College. I don't think he finished the program, so he didn't actually become a minister. But he had like an ungodly number of children. I used to joke it was enough for a baseball team because they were in the Quiverful movement, right? Make more kids for Jesus.
Yep.
And he abused all of them. And this came out, and he got a prison sentence. So I don't remember how long it was, but he got out and he came to pay his respects there. And I was lucky I wasn't there because he was one of my best friends growing up.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would handle that. But anyway, he left before I got there. But what I found out was all of my cousins and uncles and everyone who's alive and their kids were hugging him and glad-handing him and thanking that he's repented to Jesus and he's going to be in heaven, with them. And meanwhile, me and my wife are going to hell, because we don't believe, not because we did anything to children or anything like that. Yeah, that was something to sit through.
The rationalizations are crazy.
Yeah. So what happened to his wife, whose life he ruined, and all the kids? Did he make it better with them? No. But he apologized to Jesus, so he's good now.
That's all that matters.
So Aunt Jer was telling me that there's 2 super chats that we have to acknowledge. I only saw the one, and I already acknowledged it when it first popped up. There's $100. What? If there's $100 one, then I'm donating it to Recovering from Religion.
Ooh, that would be nice. Thank you.
I gotta go to the other chat. I can't see nothing on our chat.
I see this one, which is the one I acknowledged already, which is $5 from Tons of Mice. God heard my change jingling. Mind your business, God.
So yeah. Actually, one more thing for my family. The last interface I had with any of them was a cousin who's a couple years older than me. Every once in a while, she will send me a Facebook messenger something about God talked to her and told her to get in touch with me to try to save me. And it's like usually just out of the blue, because we never talked. This could have been 4 or 5 years since I had any contact with her at all, and it would have been similar to the last time. And then I said, why every once in a while do you do this? And basically, God doesn't want to lose anyone. He doesn't want to lose you. I just had a dream and I knew it was God talking to me, trying to save you. And then she will give me these links, which are the most ridiculous sermons by some fundamentalists that she follows, full of logical fallacies, no evidence. And whenever I would send her one little thing back, she'd go, well, that's ridiculous, Rob. I'm not looking at that. So, it's like.
So we did find it?
Yeah, right here. Patrick Hassenfratz, 99.99. Thank you so much. He says, morning, fellas. What a fist bump. Thank you so much.
That's insane. All right. Well.
Very generous. Thank you.
That's really cool. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jer, for catching it. I'm just going to leave the regular YouTube open because that thing doesn't have no colors on it. It's all gray.
Well, that's very cool. And we'll figure out how to get that over to Recovering from Religion after this.
So yeah, when I joined Recovering from Religion, I considered telling my family, hey, look at this. I'm actually a co-host of their weekly show now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, I don't want to start anything. So, I don't think I sometimes post this on my personal channel, but I don't think any of them follow me anymore. So they probably don't know it. But, it would just be like what I always hear Matt Dillahunty saying that, the people in his family think he's being, he's working for the devil. That they probably would just think that. So I don't need to go there. But just to be clear, folks, if you guys don't know Recovering from Religion, we're not an atheist organization, right? I'm talking this way now. I don't do that when people call on the helpline. We just try to help people recover whatever their own stories are. Occasionally, and this is rare, but we'll have somebody who doesn't want to leave their religion. They just were hurt by their particular type, and we'll even talk about what might be a better one for them, that kind of a thing. But yeah, most people have come to the conclusion that there's something fundamentally wrong with what they're being taught. Sometimes they've been traumatized. A lot of times, frankly, they've been traumatized by different things. And so we have a lot of services to help people deal with that sort of thing.
Right. And also the Clergy Project, which is attached to Recovering from Religion.
Yeah, it's not exactly attached. I think there's a sister relationship there. The thing that actually is attached is the Secular Therapy Project. So Dr. Darrell Ray started both that and Recovering from Religion.
That's actually what I was referring to.
Yeah.
I meant that the Clergy Project is kind of an offshoot of it.
Yep. So the Clergy practice is really interesting, and I sometimes talk about this with people on the helpline, because they'll go, somebody will call in and go, I'm having doubts. I'm wondering if anyone else in the church is having doubts. Yeah, I'll bet they are, because clergy. Then I explain what the Clergy Project is. Right? This is to help people who are clergy of whatever religion, who are trained only to do that. They don't know how to make money any other way. They came up through a religion, and they were, if you're a Christian, a youth pastor, and then you become the pastor. And now, if you don't believe it anymore, what the hell do? You just mortgage the house, and you're paying for it with the funds the church has given you. And now you don't believe it. So most of them would just stay there and, maybe change the sermon a little bit, not talk about the controversial things perhaps. But some of them feel so bad about that they want to find a way to leave. So that's what the Clergy Project will help people in that situation who want to get out of it, leave. The other thing, the Secular Therapy Project is a sister project of Recovering from Religion. We vet therapists to make sure that they are secular. They're not going to tell you to open your Bible or Quran or any other holy book to solve your problems, right? They're not. Also, we vet that they're not using pseudoscience, right? They're not going to say they're going to fix your psychological problems by healing your auras or fixing your chakras. So we vet them for that, and then they go into a database, and then you can go on our website and find people who will not do those other things, and they in fact are experienced with religious trauma and that sort of a thing.
Right.
Yeah,
if you're suffering from some form of religious trauma, you don't want to be going to a therapist. It's just going to put you even deeper in.
Neil, I cannot tell you how many times on the helpline I have heard people who that has been the thing. They went to a therapist, they paid for 2 or 3 sessions over a month, and then they go to the fourth. Okay, now I understand a lot about your problems. Let's open the Bible. Holy.
What the? And
now, how? My question is how can they allow that type of thing in that world of psychiatry, psychology, whatever?
They're definitely not
America.
proper to do it. That is for sure. They're breaking some kind of rules in their certification. But you know how strong religious belief is, and the people can't resist.
Yeah, but still, that's it's like, what a cop-out way to handle an actual trauma of some kind. Let's just read the fucking Bible so I don't have to do any fucking work.
Right. And even
what did
if you're
you go
not
to school for? Like, why did I come to? Like, what did I come to you for? If this just the answer's right here in this dumbass book. Like, clearly you learned something about the human psyche with all that learning. And I got to do this.
And even if that's the worst kind of example, but there was a call just a couple of weeks ago where the person had gone to a therapist, and he said generally good therapist, but was clearly uncomfortable whenever he mentioned religion. So, they were clearly not proselytizing, but they were a firm believer apparently in his head, and felt uncomfortable when he's bad-mouthing what happened in his religion. So that's why he was calling us to find somebody in the Secular Therapy Project.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Shit, I had a question and it disappeared. This is one of the things I hate about getting old, is your memory lasts about as long as that fish from Finding Nemo or whatever.
Dory.
Yeah, Dory. I couldn't even remember her name.
Degenerates, if I remember.
Hey, Neil, are we live yet? I remember sitting down for the show, but did we ever start the show?
Yeah, we have. Have you had? I want to ask a little bit about recovering from religion. When you're on there, have you ever had anyone that has called you that ended up calling back because some serious sort of stuff happened to them because they called you?
No, I can't recall that particular circumstance.
Okay.
That doesn't ring a bell. Yeah. So I probably in the years I've been doing this, have taken something close to 1,000 calls. Actually, I used to have a spreadsheet, and I was up to 666, and then I decided I'm getting tired of filling the spreadsheet out, and I stopped. That was like 3 years ago. So I think it's about 1,000. But yeah, we've had a few trolls, not as many as you
Oh, no
might
doubt.
imagine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of repeat callers who feel like they need to, periodically get in touch to tell us what's going on. That's okay. But the predominant thing we do on the helpline is to channel them to our other services, which are meant to be more long term, right? So the one is a secular therapy project. If it's someone who's that in that need, that a peer support person like me isn't enough. But the other thing we have are support groups. And these, we have about 60 of them. And between them, they meet once a month. So there's like 40, maybe usually 15 or so a week. And most of them are on online now. Before the pandemic happened, they were all in person. The host person would rent someplace, or I don't know, maybe it was donated, the school basement or something. But then the pandemic happened. Everyone went on lockdown. We all learned how to use media like this. We use Zoom. And since, it's mostly recovered, many of those hosts have gone, some of those hosts, I won't say many, probably a quarter have gone back to doing it in person, but that leaves 3/4 or so to still be virtual. And that's helpful because we only have 60 of them and the world is a big place. It was not likely you were going to have a comfortable drive to get to one. Now you can get to many, many, many a week. And we've also constructed separate virtual ones for different topics. We have one for just men, just for just women, LGBTQ issues, one for young people, one for older people, one for people with disabilities. So we try to cover the spectrum, and they're all free, unlike therapists, because Secular Therapist Project is just hooking you up with a professional, and they charge what they charge.
Right.
The support groups are free. And another service that we recommend if it's appropriate, is we have an online community where we use a tool called Slack. It's kind of like a Discord server. So there's something like 30 chat channels, and people can talk to each other about, again, they're all named with different topics of interest, and all of those are moderated. So it's not like going on a Facebook group without any, or to Reddit, God forbid. I stay away from
4chan
cesspool.
Yeah. So these are all moderated by volunteers, and if you're in that online community, you can only get into that by making a call or text chatting into an agent first, and they get to have a conversation with you to find out if you're appropriate. And if you're invited, besides those text chat channels, you also get 2 weekly hangouts, which is cool. Monday and Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. We're doing those currently. And you just go on Zoom and you just talk to people who are also in that community about whatever you want. Those are smaller groups. And again, that's for just the people in that online community. The thing that you were involved with, Neil, that I really liked, and I got involved with, so now I'm one of the co-hosts, is the weekly show we have, where we have a guest such as yourself. We've had Seth Andrews, Matt Delahunty. We have a psychologist come on. We have popular YouTubers like Mr. Deity I talked about before. All sorts of types of people talk about something. They either get interviewed or they give a presentation. And then we have a very long hangout after that. That might be 2, 3, 4 hours where, and you don't have to be in the online community for that. That is just go to our website, look up RFRX Talks. It has the link there. And
you guys did that with me.
What's that?
A little bit. You guys did that with me too, a little bit.
Yeah. So usually the guests like yourself hang out for a little bit. I mean, we're taking up a lot of your time just to do the talk portion. So then we do a Q&A.
Which is fun, though.
But a lot of people, this is their Monday night. They love to be there, and they'll hang out for hours and hours and hours. It starts out, those meetings, those shows start out with maybe 60-ish, 70 When Seth was there, it was 100 people online.
Mhm.
And then it dwindles down over the evening. But usually by the time we get to the hangout, there's like still 40, 30 people. And it's a lively, interesting set of conversations. So I would recommend that. And it's easier to join that because you just click into it as opposed to having to call in, and they'll have to see if you're okay for
Right.
the online community and, that kind of thing. And the RFRX Talks is available just by clicking on our website to go into it. And if you want to see the idea of what the talks are, including Neil's episode, you go to the recoveryfromreligion.org page, click on RFRX Talks. That'll go to that page. And at the very top, it says, see our YouTube playlist. And right now, there's 234 episodes. We've been doing this since the pandemic started.
I think we're closing in on 600 on this channel. So.
Wow. But you do more than one a week then?
Used to. Now it's just every Saturday. Used to do it 3 times a week, which
that's
really
how you got
kind of
such a big number.
built those numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
podcast,
again,
podcast people I know are just the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, one of my favorite ones, just hit 1,000 this week of weekly episodes. And Skeptoid, the cruise I'm going on with those people from that podcast in July, that will be their 1,000th. So, that's about as long as podcasting has been out there. Weekly episodes to get to 1,000. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. Actually, I'll be doing a call-in show tomorrow. The Let's Talk show tomorrow. I believe. Yeah. It's me and Mikey tomorrow, I think. Pretty sure. Yeah. Yep. May 18th. You still down for it? Yeah.
I knew that. I've been reading up all about it.
Yeah.
I'm totally ready. What time is it?
Well, I believe, 5 my time. So
okay, 7
for you. Yeah. Because you're in Western time zone. So
I'm in the central, the most important time zone. That's why it is central. It is into the center.
Right.
Except the least amount of people live. Well, no, the mountain has the least amount of people. Central is.
I think so.
Yeah, they should not have a time zone. They should just get stuck with either the west or the east. Like, I'm with that, but we're not them.
Do you know what India does? Do you know what India does regarding time zones?
No idea.
They arrest you if you even mention it.
No. It's a very wide country, but they decided they want to be one time zone. But to compromise, the whole country is on the half hour. They're on the half hour.
Really? We have that here in some places too, where they're on the half hour.
That's
in
terrible.
Canada, yes.
Newfoundland, I think Newfoundland.
You're right. I actually did a trivia round of 10 name 10 of the 14 places on the planet Earth which are not on the hour, and yes, that was one of them. Yeah, there's a surprising amount that are on 15 minutes off. It's like, oh, come on, just round it up, make it on the hour. But no.
There's a couple in Australia, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
In the southern coast there.
Who knows? But I was speaking with somebody that wants to come on the show that's from Australia, and so. But of course, they're in the future when I talk to them.
Oh yeah.
So
I always try to get them to give me the lottery numbers, but they refused.
Yeah, I know. I did the same thing.
Stupid morals.
What kind of stuff? What kind of stuff have you done with Center for Inquiry?
Yeah, so I mentioned the psychic stuff. That really. So, let's see. I was driving home, listening to a podcast which is no longer being made, Skepticality, and the host Derek was interviewing a private eye named Bob Nygaard. And
sounds familiar to me.
He was talking about his post-retirement career of trying to get justice for the victims of psychic con artists. He was a New York City cop, hit retirement age, which maybe was 55 or something, moved down to Florida, thought he was going to spend the rest of his life on a beach, and then had this thing where 2 people came up to him, professionals in a hospital, and one of them told him that, they had been taken by a psychic, he'd do anything. He took the case, and then he got a license, and now he's been doing this for quite a long time. I think it's been over 10 years. And he's the only person that I know of that does this. So you might have seen his name in the news because he does a lot of cases that gets covered nationally, and it's not the small cases. Psychics will take you for anything they can. Yep. But sometimes it's like in the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And of course that makes the news. And, a lot of times his name is associated with that. And it's disturbing. So when I found out about him, I'm on a Wikipedia editing team, which helps edit Wikipedia for accuracy regarding science, taking off pseudoscience, nonsense medical claims, conspiracy theories, that sort of thing. And he did not have a bio on it, so I wrote a bio for him. And then much later, he kind of got involved with the skeptical community, and I interviewed him for my column in Skeptical Inquirer for CFI. And I found out even more, and I published an interview with him in 2 parts. And then I actually did another one with him later when Gwyneth Paltrow had a Netflix series called Goop Lab.
The Goop.
Goop Lab was a Netflix series of which 6 episodes, one of which promoted psychic mediums. Gwyneth Paltrow's private psychic medium, like this is real. Oh. And I asked him his opinion of this. So basically, if you look at Bob Nygaard's Wikipedia article, you will see some of the horrendous stories of people being victimized. And the way he tells it to me is so many people call him and write him emails for help because they've been victimized, and he doesn't have an organization. It's just him. He's only got a limited time, and no one else apparently does this. And the legal justice system is not on your side if you're giving your money to one of these people. And
is that for real? They won't help you.
Oh, absolutely no.
You're first giving it of your free will.
So picture this, Neil. You've gone in, you spent $100,000 on a psychic, right? You finally decide for whatever reason that, oh my God,
I'll never let you do that.
I was a fraud. You go to the police station. You want to fill a report. Did somebody put a gun to your head? You just gave them the money, right?
No weapons needed.
No, right? All right. The second thing, okay, you convinced the person somehow to take the report down. Now, of all the crimes they have, of our guns put to people's heads and whatever, they have to decide that yours is important enough to take up, and that a jury would actually also say they didn't put a gun to your head, right? That you'd be worth taking their time to go to trial with. So the best that possibly can happen is they will arrest the person, have them give the money back, and let them out. But that doesn't even mostly ever happen because they don't have the time to do that, right? And then, by the way, give the money back isn't a sure thing. Some of these people have given hundreds of thousands of dollars over years and years and years. The money's not in their bank account anymore.
Right.
Oh, that's gone, baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it is astounding. There's an association, the American Association of Psychics and Mediums. Yes, that's a thing. Who tracks their own members, and they report what the what the income was for the year, whatever. And this is like 5-ish years ago. It was $2 billion industry. This is of just, I'll say, legitimate psychics who are just give me $10 or give you a reading, give me $100, give you a reading. They're not going to take hundreds of thousands, right? That was at the time they reported just their members. I don't know what subset of all psychics and mediums that was $2 billion. But even they admitted that the people who do the kind of thing Bob Nygaard tries to save was also billions of dollars. And it's got to be the tip of the iceberg. It is something that just gets so underreported. And the thing that I get so pissed about, so I wrote an article called Belief in Psychics, What's the Harm and Who's to Blame? You can Google that with my name. It's one of the earlier things I wrote.
Or you can go to the link tree that I have for Rob down below and check out all of his stuff that he's written and stuff like that.
Just bookmark the link
tree that he's done, which I want to talk to you about a little bit before we bring this to a close too.
So that article actually starts with, I got an email from a victim, somebody who lost, I think the number was $24,000, and she said it was her life savings.
Sheesh.
Right? Can you help me? And I go, I have no law enforcement, training, but I put her in touch with Bob. The reason she emailed me was because she Googled and she got my name associated with interviewing Bob. I don't know why she didn't just call him directly. But anyway, so I gave him the contact, and she did in fact call Bob. And Bob, he was just it was too small of an amount of all of the cases he gets. I think that was the deal, if I recall. I'm not positive on that, but it was just so many people call him that it's like impossible to take all of the relatively small ones. It's a horrendous situation, and I felt so bad. And it's like, wow. Another person, he was going to try to help, and then the way he told me the story was, the person said, well, okay, you're right. I'd have to go to trial on this and put my name out there in the newspapers, and I'm just too embarrassed to do it, so never mind. So that happens a lot. There was a story of a college professor. By the way, these are not dummies all the time anyway. College professors, CEOs of major corporations, doctors, lawyers. Like, you don't have to be really stupid to be vulnerable to these people, because a lot of people believe this. 45% of the U.S. population believes this. It's not just low educated people. There's something in your mind which you can be a really great medical doctor, but you still believe this shit can happen. Right. And you got a lot of money if you're a surgeon or a CEO or whatever. And yeah, they're really going to take you.
A lot to lose.
Yeah. So one of the people say, I don't want my name in the papers. I'll tell you the story so you can watch this psychic. But a lot of them won't even go and report it and make it official because of that. Because the way I think it was put was, my reputation at my university is worth more than the $200,000 that they got.
Oh yeah.
My reputation is not. I need my 200K. Mine is not. I need my cash back. I need all of my coins back. All of my rings from Sonic, my rupees from Zelda, every chip I need back into my.
So see, now that's interesting. Your jewelry, whatever. Okay, so here's the scoop, and I learned this from Bob Nygaard, and this shocks me. If you pay them cash because they say they're going to give you a reading and help you with your life or whatever, that's not even a crime in most places.
That's right. You're paying for a
technically
service.
It is, and no one cares. All of New York State, it is illegal to do that, and yet there are psychic shops all over the place because nobody wants to prosecute, right? So technically it is illegal, but they won't prosecute that. The only kinds of things Bob Nygaard can go after is if, Mikey, you were told to give all your jewelry and the person says they got bad juju on them and they're going to have to go to some Central African country and you're going to have to give them airfare, or they're going to spend a lot of money to learn these enchantments to take the juju off of it, and then they'll give it back to you. And they don't give it back to you. So that's the crime. That's the kind of thing he can go after.
But my puka shell necklace is priceless.
So that was the real case where the client was told that they had to fly to Africa to take all this training.
Look, man, I got to get all these bad spirits out of that Rolex. Give me that.
That's right.
No, not here, idiot. I got to go back to the Republic of the Congo.
Yeah.
I'll be back in January.
Yeah. But the really scary thing is, why do people believe this? Why do people, we were talking before, why do people believe in people who are channeling the aliens who are going to show themselves any minute? Why do you know? So one of the things, let's bring this back to religion a little bit. I asked Bob Nygaard about this subject and the intermesh of religion and his victims. And I said, is this associated with religion, do you think? And he goes, I have never had a victim who was an atheist. He said, I wouldn't say it couldn't happen, but I'm just telling you, and all my victims, every one of them was religious.
Or a believer in something, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, well, because if you're raised that there is, spirits and beings and gods and demons who can read your mind and all of that, it's not
you can
a big leap. So humans can have these powers to see the future and communicate with dead people and tell you what's going to happen. One of the most horrendous stories was, I don't remember actually if this was Bob's case or he told me about it separately. A woman lost a child early in pregnancy, was very distraught about it. So was pregnant again and went to a psychic to try to find out the future. Is this pregnancy going to go well? Right.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Right. You see where this is going. Yeah. And you could spend a lot of money over many, many, many weeks to make sure I take the bad aura off of you, because that's why you lost the baby. And and then she had the baby and said, okay, now I can stop coming. Thank you for helping me. I paid you I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars so I could have this baby and it didn't die. Wait a minute. I just I am in contact with the soul of the baby you lost previously.
Oh,
it's
no.
some kind of limbo purgatory, and it's going to be there forever unless I learn these methods to help you get it out of there and send it to heaven.
Unreal that they would
I never
prey on
got-
people to that level.
Yeah.
Like what the? These are not good people.
No, no, but
until
but
I get
part of what I
my
was saying
200
before, if you don't believe in an afterlife and the bullshit, you would have just bullshit. Right off the bat, you wouldn't have started down that.
click.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Yeah.
I just gave you. All right, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I gotta. But I
At that
think
point, I'd be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
I meant to say this before, but it kind of ties into this too. One of the best tools like a lot of these religions have is kind of like isolating you from normal people who will make sure that you don't fall for. You paid $900 for a Ouija board.
Yeah.
Nah, brother, you gotta. No, man, you gotta. Like a normal person, like a random straight. They don't care about this stuff, so you can't sell it to them.
Have
So
you
they
seen
make
the
sure
Ouija
that you
board?
don't have any friends?
Have you seen the Ouija board that's advertised specifically that it helps you communicate with Jesus?
What?
A GP board?
How the fuck did that end up meshing?
The JC
Because
board.
according to most of the Christians I know, those are evil and demonic. And
That's true. I don't know.
must be demon Jesus then, I guess.
Somebody
Jesus
said
just
in the
get
chat.
a
Somebody
two-way
said in the
picture?
chat they Googled Robert Palmer, but all they got was music videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I put that up on this.
There was a time period when I couldn't give my credit card to anybody without a Robert Palmer joke, which is why my name is Rob now. And if you Google Rob Palmer and Skeptic, you won't get any videos. You won't get any music videos. You'll get my videos.
And as you found out today, folks, he's simply irresistible.
And addicted to love. That is true.
And addicted to love. I forgot about that one. Lynn, before we close out the show.
Wait. I was almost done. So the people get separated and they're isolated, and that makes them more vulnerable for these kinds of people because they're saying, yeah, that religion was 100% wrong. This guy's totally believable. He got like 3 things right about me, and the Bible never got anything right about me.
That's right. Right. And
So
also,
this guy is way better than Jesus.
Yeah, and the thing about it, he's got, the phrase is, and they said something there's no way they could have known. That's
right.
So a friend of mine, Susan Gerbic, has a YouTube channel, Psychics Explained. She makes it even more of her reason for living to expose these people. And she's got a whole channel. She also writes for Skeptical Inquirer about these subjects. And this is the thing that said a lot, as Mikey said. They'll say something to you, they'll do a trick, and they'll trick you into thinking it's real. And this has to be real. There's no way they could have done that. And Susan explains how they do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people will continue to interpret vague statements as meaningful to them.
Random statements. Yep.
Right.
And the other thing, these days, Neil, hot reading is so easy to do. There's hot reading, there's cold reading, and there's Barnum statements. Hot reading is so.
I don't know if it's the lack of reading these days or if it's like the social media culture, but people's every emotion is all over their face. If you know anything about micro expressions at all, people are open books these days. Everyone used to be a little bit more stoic and a little bit more stern in the facial area, but everyone is so expressive now. If these people have a 45 minutes of training, they're going to have your social security number by the end of this conversation.
So here's an example of how even experts can be fooled by these people. There's a podcast that just ended after many, many years. Oh no, Ross and Carrie. Ross Blotcher is one of the co-hosts, and he actually did Recovering from Religion talks twice. He's going to do it a third time. So I was listening to one of the episodes. So he and the co-host, their thing is we do things so you don't have to. So this one episode, they went to a psychic and a psychic medium, I believe.
Did they make an appointment?
Yes. No. This was a public reading. So they're in a room with a bunch of people, and the psychic goes around talking to different people, right? And Ross was reading the notes, and she got one thing very right. She came over to me and said, "You're." I don't remember the details here. I'm gonna be foggy on it, but basically, it's like your deceased grandmother, Susan. And he said, and she got that, and he's reading the notes on the podcast. So and she got, it was a lucky guess. She got that right. Then Carrie, the other co-host, looks at her notes. No, Ross. She said Samantha or Sharon or Susan. And he had no recollection of that.
He just heard what he heard.
Yeah. And they're in there to listen and he missed that one. But that is what the average normal person comes out of those. They got the name right. They knew what job they had. They knew this, and mostly no, it's a bunch of guesses, and you give them a lot of other information. Like they might say, I'm seeing somebody who's deceased recently and they wore a uniform. Maybe they were post office or Navy or Army or military of some sort. Oh, yeah, my uncle was in the post office. And then when they tell their friends, you knew my Uncle Jim worked in the post office.
Yeah, they just connect all the dots for the person.
That's a psychological bias, and that's what people do. And like even that one point was weird that Ross fell for that one, and he didn't even realize he had done it. So that's how easy for that is to happen to an average person, and for these people to take advantage of you, because then you think they're magic, and you're going to listen to anything they say, including, hey, give me a whole bunch of money and your Rolex.
See, good thing comedians can't try to like future tell or scry the bones or something like that, because they would be great at it. Like a comedian, like a stand-up comedian would be great, because they could just read the crowd. They could just get a whole bunch of people and they could trick all of them, but everyone's just there to laugh at them. So I guess they have to come in with like some sort of turban, maybe a crystal ball. Some sort of prop, maybe.
It helps to have props. Definitely helps to have props. Tarot cards are great props. People use those, and they will convince you that they're seeing the future, and it's just.
I always say it's a red flag if you don't have props.
Well played.
Listen, before we wrap this up, Rob, have you ever talked at the Baja Con that goes on?
I have not. It's been on my list of things I should eventually go to. I've mostly gone to the Committee for Skeptical Inquiries Conference, which was an annual thing called SciCon. This is actually the first year they're missing one. And
Well, I'll suggest your name to Bob when I go there in August, and maybe he can get you on there as a speaker.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the podcaster panel. We'll be live streaming from there and stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun.
Are they going to have anybody on that panel from Recovering from Religion? Maybe my co-host Kara or somebody?
I'm not. I couldn't give you a 100% sure answer on that one, but I can find out.
Let me look.
I know that Forrest Valkai is going to be there again this year. I met him last year.
Cool. Yeah, so I met Forrest at SciCon. He was a speaker. I interviewed him for my column. One of the things I do for my column is I interview SciCon speakers before the conference. And so I got to interview him and got to know him then. And then I invited him to be RFRX Talk speaker. And so he came on to do that twice. In fact, that was, and then he invited me on his show. I was on Skep Talk with him, and that was fun.
Really?
I forgot who I was looking for.
Anyone from Recovering from Religion. Yeah.
Got it.
Because the Center for Inquiry, they always have a table there. So that's kind of why I thought maybe you might. But I'll talk to Bob, because they're probably looking for folks for next year as well, which I'll
that makes
again.
So ask me as a final thing who my favorite interview was of all the interviews I've ever done for CScience.
Why does this sound loaded?
No, it was just.
So who would you say is your favorite interview that you've done?
Thank you, Mike. It's an out there answer. So most people, you know, the actor who played Q on Star Trek,
John Delancey.
John Delancey. Okay, we'll talk to you about Baja Camp. You got to get him on this show. We have been so terrified of sending him an email. How was it? Tell us everything.
Because I hear he charges money to do it. So
he might. I got him to do an interview because he was going to appear at SciCon, and so I got to talk to him, and it was fascinating. And actually, I've interviewed him.
Apparently, he's pretty cool.
But we got to get him to Baja Con, and then he'll come do the show.
So I got him to do, he's a really nice guy. I got him to do for my local skeptics club, the Philadelphia Association of Critical Thinking. We did a live stream where I interviewed him online, and he snapped me into the continuum.
Nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, apparently Seth Anders has interviewed John Delancey as well.
What the heck? Why is he avoiding us?
Because he doesn't know I exist, dude. That's why.
Well, he should.
All right. So, Rob, normally we do an after party after the show. Unfortunately, I just got a text from a friend who is telling me that I need to go to the hospice where another friend of mine is in right now because they don't know how long she's going to last.
Sorry.
And I should probably go there. And I'm pretty much fighting back the tears at the moment, but that's okay. So, Mikey, you can still. I don't know if you can still do one without me or not. Or
Guest, would you like to have an after party, or would you like to do it next time we have one, and then you just do it with the next person in their after party?
Yeah, let's do it now. I got a bunch of stuff coming up, and I might not be available. So
okay,
if that works,
we'll run a quick one.
All right, Neil. Well, thanks for having me.
You get out of here, dude.
Yeah, good luck.
It's like, well, I'll close this out, and I'll come in for the beginning of the after party if you're going to do it, and then I'll be bailing just so I can. I'm going to do a little something that I thought I would do here, but we're sort of way over time on this. So we'll get the after party going pretty much right away, guys. There is a link to it in the description box below. I'll stick around for 5-10 minutes, and then I got to go because they don't. Dean was telling me they're not sure how long. Thanks everyone for your
No worries, mate. Go ahead, land this plane.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for being our guest on tonight's show. Kind of bummed out at the end here, but I do want to say thank you very much, and I'll do what I can to get you into the BajaCon. I'll talk to Bob, and I'll talk to all those guys. And
well, thank you.
Definitely, you guys go and check out the BajaCon website and see what it's all about. I've met some great people through that, and also go and check out Recovering from Religion. And see about I've got some stickers here, so if you guys want a sticker for Recovering from Religion, you can have one of these and one of my stickers by just sending me an email at 604atheist@gmail.com, and I'll get these stickers out to you. It should only cost a couple of bucks to mail them to you. So if you're interested in that, send me an email. Also,
but you're mailing it from Canada, right? So maybe they're going to tariff it and it's going to go way up in price.
For mail? I don't think so.
Only 30% of the sticker is going to show up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Anyway, link to in the description box for Rob's link tree, which will take you to all the stuff that he's been involved with. So definitely check that out as well. I have, and there's a lot of really, really cool stuff. So definitely check it out. And until then, guys, like I always say at the end of the interview, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.